Are you listening?
Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant Chappelle, and on this week's episode, PlayStation drops a ton of next-generation news on us. 5 new video games are coming to Google Stadia. People Can Fly show off their latest game, Outriders. And Disney is about to open the floodgates on the world of gaming. But before we jump into any of that, your top headlines. First up this week, People Can Fly. Of course, we should point out that we are talking about the video game studio, and not the earth-shattering news that suddenly people have earned the ability of flight. This just in, people from all around the world are suddenly flying. I was sitting right there on my front porch when all of a sudden my husband of 10 years just flew off. I haven't seen him in weeks. Nor will she. Now, if you aren't aware, the video game studio People Can Fly have brought us games like Bulletstorm Full Clip, Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm the Original, and Painkillers. However, this week, People Can Fly and Square Enix have unveiled their latest project, Outriders. According to Square, Outriders is a third-person RPG shooter set in a world where sci-fi meets savagery. The game can be played solo or with up to 2 other players, but whichever way you want to play, you'll be presented with the vast, brutal adventure filled with imaginative weapons, satisfying loot, and flexible character development. Now, as far as the game's available characters go, People Can Fly have revealed 3 classes. The Pyromancer, which uses fire and flames to devastate crowds of enemies and control the battlefield. The Trickster is a fast, maneuverable class that uses speed and time manipulation to cut down enemies. And finally, the Devastator is a powerful class that makes brute force feel elegant. From gravity manipulation to impenetrable armor, it's all about getting close to targets so you can deal maximum damage. Outriders promises to be a fast-paced and intense third-person shooter that will be released in September of 2020. Google Stadia was in the news this week, as following criticism that no new games have been announced for the service in 2020, Stadia answered that criticism by dropping 5 new games coming to the platform. That's right, this week Stadia announced that games like Lost Words Beyond the Page, Stacks on Stacks on Stacks, and Spitlings would be releasing first, exclusively on Google Stadia. But that's not all. Stadia also announced that a remake of Panzer Dragoon and the Serious Sam Collection 2 will be arriving on Google Stadia. Virtual reality. You know, VR never ceases to amaze me. The technology continues to develop and we're starting to see it used in ways that we never even dreamed possible. And this week, we saw VR technology used in a brand new way, assisting people in the grieving process. Allow me to introduce you to the South Korean television show Meeting You, in which producers recreate virtual reality versions of your deceased loved ones using images, video, and audio recordings. And they then allow you to reconnect with your loved ones one last time. The most recent episode reconnected Zhang Ji-sung, who lost her daughter in 2016. Zhang Ji-sung was able to reconnect with her daughter, along with having the ability to feel her daughter using state-of-the-art VR haptic gloves. The session ended with Ji-sung's daughter being put to bed and telling her mother, "I am not hurting anymore." And finally, for our top headlines, the PlayStation 5. We are 1 week closer to the release of Sony's next-gen console, and despite complete radio silence from PlayStation, somehow we have a ton of PlayStation news to talk about. So let's jump into it with a recurring segment that we like to call PS! I forgot to tell you. Quite possibly, the biggest question surrounding the PlayStation 5 is what will the console cost? And this week it was revealed by Bloomberg News Scarce components have pushed the manufacturing cost for Sony Corp's next PlayStation to around $450 per unit. The PlayStation 4 released in 2013 at a retail price of $399, and it was estimated by IHS Markit to cost $381 to manufacture. So with the $450 unit cost and a similar gross margin, the PlayStation 5's retail price would have to be at least $470. Now, that $470 price tag may be a shock to some of you. However, Bloomberg's source has confirmed that the PlayStation 5 is looking to improve on the PlayStation 4's faults, including the jet engine of a fan. In fact, P.S. I forgot to tell you. Bloomberg continued by reporting most of the components for the console have been locked down, the people said, including the cooling system, which is unusually expensive at a few dollars per unit. Typically, companies would spend less than $1, but Sony opted to lavish more on making sure heat dissipation from the powerful chips housed inside the console isn't an issue. Which will hopefully mean that the PlayStation fan will go from, well, this to this. Silence. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's top headlines. So, without further ado, let's jump into this week's top story with the rundown.
Now for something completely different. Yeah.
The wonderful world of Disney. Let's be honest, as far as Disney goes, they are killing it right now. Movies? In 2019, Disney was responsible for the top 5 highest grossing movies of the year. Theme parks, Star Wars Galaxy Edge just opened, and while I haven't been, all these social media influencers that I follow make it look fantastic. And streaming services, you got Disney Plus, which is awesome. Did you know that you can watch Frozen in 41 languages? Like, English is great, but watching Frozen in Spanish is a whole nother level. But as far as video games go, well, Disney definitely has some work left to do. In the last 2 years for mainstream consoles, Disney has licensed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a recreation of classic games like Aladdin and The Lion King. You had Marvel's Spider-Man, Kingdom Hearts 3, Disney's Tsum Tsum Festival for the Nintendo Switch, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and Lego Incredibles. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the success of games like Fallen Order or Spider-Man, but when you compare the successes that Disney has seen in other verticals, like movies or streaming, gaming is definitely underperforming. But that might be changing, because this week, Sean Shoptaw, the Senior VP of Games and Interactive Experiences at Disney, told a room full of developers at this year's D.I.C.E. Summit, "I'm here for one specific reason: to empower you to do really unique things with our catalog. We want to tap into the power of creatives across the industry." Now, Shoptaw continued by mentioning the successes of games like Jedi Fallen Order and Spider-Man, and used them as examples of when developers were able to reimagine Disney properties, and reassured developers that Disney now has a come-and-play strategy. Shoptaw specifically said, "We want to dream big and look forward to all the things we can do together." Think about how big that is for gaming. One of the largest entertainment companies in the world has just opened the floodgates on their properties. And just so we're clear, Disney owns the rights to Pixar properties like Frozen, Big Hero 6, Toy Stories, Monsters Incorporated, along with Fox properties like Alien, The Simpsons, Indiana Jones. Now we have to definitely include Marvel properties like the Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men, along with the entire Star Wars universe. And that's not even scratching the surface of Disney original IP like Mickey, Donald, or Goofy. We are on the precipice of a renaissance in Disney video games. And finally for this week, we come to... That noise, of course, signifies that we are running out of time and coming close to the end of the show. So, in order to cover all the week's remaining news, we must initiate a segment that I like to call... Every single week, we have so much news to talk about and so little time to do it. So we take all the week's remaining news, put 60 seconds on the clock, and try to cover it as fast as humanly possible without running out of breath, passing out, or dying! So, with that in mind, let's put 60 seconds on the clock. Thunder noise! And... go! BioWare has confirmed that they are currently working on Anthem 2.0. Jeff Keighley broke the news and, well, broke our hearts this week by confirming that he will not be hosting the E3 Coliseum, which, if anybody wants to know, I'm available that week. Congratulations to Media Molecule as Dreams finally released this week. And speaking of Dreams, Media Molecule went on to explain that a VR update is coming to the game. Project xCloud is now available for all iOS device owners. Activision was removed from the NVIDIA GeForce Now streaming service. Sony has, according to reports, spent $229 million on buying Insomniac. Speaking of Sony, The Last of Us 2 will be playable at PAX East next weekend. And finally, for our news this week, Half-Life Alyx, the brand new Half-Life VR game, will be releasing on March 23rd of 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Nerfed in 60 Seconds, and that is it for this week's episode of the show. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please share it with your friends. As always, my name is Brian Chappell. You are you, and this has been the Nerf Report. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for checking out our channel. You know, we're always trying to get sponsorships on this channel, and I can tell you, us making fun of the Sony fan probably is not going to help. But this is the Nerf Report. Subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and screw sponsorships. I'll go broke doing this show. Fix the fan.